Hey, Professor.
Hey Raj, we are live on YouTube.
Perfect. Did you post the link somewhere?
Dude. Do a snack. It's not too slow. Okay. Right. Good. Received it. I'm gonna keep my Slack shut. Otherwise, trouble.
Yeah, I think there's like a 20-second lag or a 10-second lag.
Yeah, 20 to 30-second kind of delay between what we do and what they see, which is a good thing. But we are not editing or anything, so whatever happens is still going on in delay. You're gonna see it. But yeah, let me do. I'm not watching the YouTube live thing. Let me do the screen share and see what happens on your end.
And if I talk, just to test it out, let me see.
Yes, what? Ready?
Hi, Professor.
You are on YouTube.
And if I talk, just
Okay, just hold on a minute, guys. Yes, what? Ready?
Hi, Professor.
You are on YouTube.
Hey, so can you mute yourself? Or no, don't mute yourself. Mute the YouTube video you're watching.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to stop the screen share for now. So we would be on screen. We can silently kill the time until 4:30. But if someone has a good jokes to tell, you guys can share those jokes to YouTube. I don't know how many people are watching in YouTube right now. Maybe one or two. So yeah, feel free to do that.
7 people are watching in YouTube.
7 so far.
It's all of us.
Better not risk our reputation with bad jokes.
It's too early to lose it. We can wait for 6:30 for that.
Professor Karthik, could you turn off the volume on your YouTube audio?
Is it? Oh, my.
Wait, it's mine. Never mind.
Okay, yeah, my YouTube. I mean, I know I have the link, but I did not playing in my YouTube.
I just hear your voice twice in my ear, so I figured it was you.
Yeah.
That was a good joke, Raj.
Accidental jokes. We already started getting questions. Hopefully it was not one of you guys. Right. Welcome, Dr. Rishad. Dr. Rishad, would you like to share a joke to all of our YouTube audience?
A joke. Oh, you had to ask.
Put you on spotlight.
I know, and I just logged in, so I'm like, this one takes a little bit of perspective, right? I don't know if everyone will get it, right? So many of you know that I'm from South Louisiana, and so I'm from the Cajun country. We sort of have a different way of speaking down there in Cajun country. And so the question is, how does a Cajun say fantastic? How does a Cajun say fantastic? And
Fantastic.
yeah, fantastic. And the answer is cute. Look at that.
Oh.
I see some smiles. I see some smiles.
So you have to get up to the swamp, get up wearing, what is that thing called?
A Piro.
Is
No?
that with the suspender kind of the thing?
Oh, the overalls.
Overalls, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
Most people remember the movie Waterboy as playing into the Cajun stereotypes. And yeah, they took all the Cajun stereotypes and wrapped them into one old movie there. So
Yeah. Good TV movie. Yeah. Good. Well, so 15 more minutes. So after 10-ish minutes, we should start seeing more guests joining in. So far, no one. So we'll see. So Dan, you have Slido open in your browser, right?
yes. And we already have one question.
Don't know whether it was one of the interns themselves, they themselves posted it, or it was really one of the YouTube viewers. I think it's could be one of the YouTube viewers.
So do you guys want another Cajun joke? Okay.
Go ahead.
I got some nods yes from that. So there was an old Cajun guy. He was hitchhiking on Interstate 10, which runs right through the heart of Cajun country. And he was walking down the road hitchhiking, and a trucker from there was a trucker. So this trucker was from Texas, and he was passing through, and he stopped by and picked up this old Cajun, and the trucker picked him up and said, "Oh, how you doing?" So where you going? It's like, "I'm going to Lake Charles." It's like, okay. So the trucker says, "Well, I want to check and see if my turn signal is working." In Cajun country, we call them blinkers. He said, "Oh, you want to check your blinkers, see if your blinker's working?" It's like, "Yeah, okay." So he said, "Can you look out of the window and tell me, I'm going to turn my turn signal on. I want you to tell me if it's working." So the trucker turns the signal on. The Cajun looks out the window and he says, "Mais yeah, mais no, mais yeah, mais no, mais yeah, mais no." Yeah, so every time the light flashed on and off, he would say yes and no. Yes, it's working. No, it's not working. Yes, it's okay. It takes a little bit to catch up on that one.
Well, good thing it's recorded.
Yeah.
I can record it, frame it, put it as a separate video.
I'm not good at jokes at all, but I can tell you that from being up north, I call sprinkles Jimmy's.
Why?
And when you go to an ice cream place and you ask for Jimmy's, they look at you like you're the strangest person in the world.
I never heard that one actually. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which part of Troth? Northeast, north,
Northeast, yes.
northeast. Okay. All right. I'll continue. Hello, Susan. Thanks for joining in. Susan, when we get started, we will be, after a few minutes into the event, we will be calling you on you to share during the funders reflection. So you will be seeing in the slide your name popping up, and I'll be calling on you to speak. At that time, you can mute and speak. So in meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to ask us, but hopefully things will be straightforward. Marcus, thanks for joining us.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here.
Good.
Welcome.
So just to clarify again, after all this interns present the project findings, then CCR, Betsy will reflect, and then I'll be calling on you to reflect on those 3 questions we shared. Hello, George. Good to see you.
Hey, Karthik, how are you?
Doing all right. So you know the process. So a little bit into the event, we'll be calling on you to share your thoughts.
That's great. I'm all good.
All right,
My
good.
thoughts this year are going to be sort of similar to last. Maybe a little bit more well-formed because this will be the second time I've said them. So
Yes. Now you're experienced for this event. You know what to say.
how
Yeah.
many people do we think we might come?
Not sure how much in the, at least in Zoom, we may have about 20 plus. Online in YouTube, so far, how many registered? I'm expecting 100 plus minimum,
Okay.
but more people are continuing to register. So right now, I am looking at 130. So we'll see.
So do you want me to be, you want me to be muted, but do you want me to be like this during the thing or like that?
That's your decision, George. So, but when you're going to speak, we probably will like you to have your camera on. But in
turn
other,
the camera, you think it'd be better for me to turn my camera off when I'm not speaking?
yeah,
Okay. So that's what you're going to get. Is that all good?
yes, we are quite happy with that too.
Well, I'm not quite happy with it because I wish it looked more like Brad Pitt, but we'll have to deal with that. Nothing we can do about that at this point.
Yes. Yeah, George, right now about 20 people are watching through the YouTube. 21 are watching through the YouTube. So the numbers going up. So
They're not seeing this yet, right?
yeah, no, it is already on YouTube. So you're on YouTube.
Great. Oh, so my stupid jokes are on YouTube. Okay. All right. I'm going to turn my mic off now before it's something even worse.
Well, I was telling stupid jokes earlier. Yeah, I was telling some Cajun jokes. So.
Hey, Chip, thanks for joining in. Hari, thanks for joining in.
Sure.
So I bit into the event, we'll be talking about funders, and at that time we'll be calling on you to share your thoughts.
Okay.
Chip, same thing, bit into the events, we'll be calling on you and George to share your thoughts. We will be, when the slide will pop up, so you will know when it's your time to speak.
Do you need me to stick around on the Zoom
Yes.
after
If you can, that will be good.
Okay.
Yeah, but most often the questions we will get in the Q&A is most often is for clients and the presenters, but we never don't know where the questions will pop out. So if you can, you could continue to stay on in the Zoom call.
Yeah, definitely.
But Dr. Suminsky, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Karthik. How are you doing?
Doing all right. How was the start of the semester?
I think we're doing okay so far. So I'm pleased to see that our students are wearing their masks. I'm in my office, and so I get to watch them walk by. So looks like everybody crossing our fingers, trying to keep everybody healthy.
Good.
Looking forward to today. So thanks for all your leadership with this. Thanks for Dan. I'm sure Dan's on here somewhere.
Yeah, I'm right here. Yeah,
Okay,
thanks for
Dan.
joining us.
No, my pleasure.
Mhm.
Yeah, we got a few more minutes, so we will give that few more minutes, and then we will start at 4:30. We are waiting for Reena to join in.
Yeah, the internship program was quite different this year. Doing it all virtually was unique.
Yeah, but just think about all those new skill sets you have.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
There you
Yeah, we
go.
learned a lot about collaborating virtually. We definitely learned that.
That's it. There's no impediments now.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I'm sure it was challenging, but you really truly do have different things that you can do now in different ways. So
Yeah.
yeah, thanks for persevering.
Yeah, very welcome. Welcome, Deborah.
Hi, thank you. Nice to see you all.
Yeah. So Deborah is going to be doing some sign language interpreting for us.
Will Raina be coming?
I'm sorry.
And who is that?
This is George. I'm wondering if Raina is going to be coming.
Raina Coughlin?
Yeah.
Yes, she's planned to be here. Yes. Welcome, Betsy.
How is everyone?
Yeah, doing great.
Oh, this is happening.
Yep, I see Temple is on as well. Welcome, Temple.
Illustration. Yeah. Okay. I will.
Thank you. Hi.
Dan,
Yes.
at the time when I need to speak, do I need to unmute myself and turn on my camera, or will that happen automatically?
Yes, we would ask that you unmute yourself and turn on your camera. We won't do it for you. And so just feel free to do that whenever. You'll see a slide come up with your name.
Okay, I will do that.
Yeah.
Then I'll mute myself in the meantime.
Okay, thanks so much for being here.
Hi, Dan, this is Debbie, the interpreter.
Yes.
How will I see if the student has joined? Do I have to swipe all of the pictures to see if she's joined us?
I will let you know if I see. I know everyone who's supposed to be on the call, and so if
Okay.
I see the student join in, I'll definitely alert you.
Okay,
and we
so
can
you
give.
okay.
Yeah, we can give that student some instructions about.
Okay.
pinning you.
Will I see her picture
I think
somewhere?
Unless you can also pin the student to your Zoom the same way that we've asked the student to pin you, and
Yeah,
so that way
so
you should be able to see that student.
okay, where do I find the pin? I'm on an iPad and I just see mute and video and share content and participants and then a chat tool. Where do I find a pin tool?
so, Deborah. So you have to look up in the gallery. You will see different options. You can see all participant thing.
I don't see that. I only see switch camera. That's the only option I have. I don't have a view gallery like I usually do.
Oh, are you able to see the other participants in the Zoom call?
I do. Across the bottom of my screen, I see my picture is first, and then I see Dr. Umapati, and then I see another gentleman, and then I kind of scroll along, and then I see Dan and Marcus and all other people. So I scroll across the bottom, but I don't have I don't know why I don't see a view gallery like I normally do. I'm looking at a audience engagement tool slide.
So
are you able? Oh, go ahead, Karthik.
All right. So Dan, I think it's 4:30. We have Betsy. Are you online?
Yes.
All right, good. So Betsy, Reena is here. Susan is Temple is here. Deborah, I think I'm seeing a person with N number. So I think that's the student. I think the student is online.
Okay, then we will go ahead and I will interpret.
All right, thank you, Deborah. So hopefully that student can watch you and pin you. In order to pin, Deborah. So that student would have to go watch the Deborah video. Then if they put the mouse cursor over Deborah, there will be 3 dots will appear, and they can select those 3, click on the 3 dot, option to pin Deborah will show up. So that's how the student can select Deborah, and Deborah video will be continuously pinned, and they will be able to continuously watch Deborah as we continue on with the event. So with this, it's 4:34 with the time in mind. We're going to get started with the event. Rashad?
Yes. Well, welcome everyone to the Florida Data Science for Social Good Big Reveal event. This is the 4th year that we've done this Big Reveal event. However, this is the first year that we've done it in virtually. So it's good to see everyone. Welcome to all of our presenters, panelists, and special guests that are joining us on the Zoom call. And we also want to welcome our DSSG friends and partners who are also joining us on YouTube Live, and also all of our participants joining through YouTube Live. So my name is Dan Richard. I'm the director of our Center for Community-Based Learning at the University of North Florida, and also an associate professor in psychology. And I'm teaming up with Dr. Umapathy.
And my name is Dr. Karthikeyan Umapathy. I'm associate professor in School of Computing and co-director for this Florida Data Science for Social Good program. In order for successfully organizing this program and keep on going for 4 years, we do need good advice and support. And for that, we reach out to our advisory board members. So they are not only advisors in our programmatic activities, they also find resources that we need to be successful in running this program. So our board members are Ari from Jacksonville Jaguar, Robert from NLP Logic, and Candace from Crowley. So we thank them for being with us for all the past 4 years and supporting our program. So as Dr. Richard mentioned, we've been working with for 4 years, and we've been supporting wide varieties of nonprofit in the past 4 years. And most of the projects, almost all of the projects that we have taken on, we have been successfully able to complete it. And the key reason behind that success is the on-time support and the best practices tips and other tips we receive from our industry mentors, whom we call as Sherpas. For this year, we received considerable amount of technical support from Katie in NLP Logic, Daniel from Make Labs, David from LiftChecks, James from JEA, Jay from TI Bank, Victor from Jaguars, Robert from Blue Chip, James from Black Knight, and Laura from JEA. Apart from the technical tips we need, we also need subject matter expertise. For that, we collaborate with the academic faculties in UNF and nearby college. So this year, we received considerable amount of support from Besa and Michelle from Mathematics and Statistics, Georgette from Political Science Public Administration, Lakshmi from Management, Ayan from Fagler College, Zudong from Computing, Angela and Jody from Psychology, Amanda from Higher Education, and Gaurav from Anthropology, and Sandeep from Computing. So these mentors and faculty leads met with us on a bi-weekly basis over this past 3 months, and their advices as being one of the key reasons why we are here and successfully completed our project, and we have interesting findings as well. So we thank them, appreciate them for all the support and the time, energy, and the knowledge they've been imparting into us. So, but we are all in here and we are willing to spend the next 2 hours is because of these 7 individuals who are our 2020 data science interns. First, Dana Arnold, she is a Master of Science Psychology student. She will be graduating from a master's program in spring 2021. After that, she plans to pursue doctorate in clinical psychology. Next, we have Vinay, who is a Master of Science Business Analytics student from University of South Florida. He will be soon graduating, and he will be exploring data scientist jobs after that. Then we have Swat, who is doctorate in statistics. He just passed his candidacy, and is a student at UCF. He got a few more years to go for graduation from doctorate, but we are pretty confident he will be finishing it and most likely working as a scientist or a professor in a leading university. And next we have Kea from University of Central Florida. She's a Bachelor of Science, Political Science student. So you'll be soon graduating and will be looking for a data science job and particularly focusing on solving social problems and with a more specific focus on environmental issues. Then next we have Chandrika Rao. So she's Master of Science, Computer Science students from UNF. She also will be soon graduating and she will be looking for machine learning specialist jobs. Next we have Raj Shah, who is Bachelor of Science, Computer Science student from University of Florida. He did graduate in summer and he already has a job lined up with Amazon and he'll be starting there in a month. Then last but not least, we have Allison, who already has a Master of Science in Management. He is working on a second Master of Science now in Business Analytics, which he will be soon graduating from. After that, he will be pursuing doctorate in data science and big data. So quite obviously, you can see that bright futures ahead of these individuals. And soon we will be hearing the project findings for this summer's work from them. But before we get to hear from them, we are a bit obligated to share a few information and also hear from some of our guests. So bear with us with that. First, I would like to take this opportunity to really explain what is data science for social good. So those 7 interns we talked about has been working on for past 12 weeks on this problem called data science for social good. What exactly it is? This concept was developed by University of Chicago in 2013. Those individuals who were involved with forming this concept now work for CMU, and this whole program they've been leading from CMU now. So this DSSG concept starts first with us identifying a social problem and identifying a nonprofit for it. And then now scoping is a problem that you can work on in a short number of time, like 12 weeks. And that problem we call as wicked problem. It is something is called a wicked problem when the problem is reoccurring and you need multiple individuals with diverse background to work on it to come up with a solution. Once you have identified the problem, the next important step you have to do is finding the data for it and then coming up with a plan to analyze those data. Then obviously you start analyzing it, cutting it, slicing it, viewing it, interpreting it. When you interpret it, you involve your client to get to make sure your interpretation are correct. Then you start making actionable knowledge. Once you have set of actionable knowledge, you start developing data-driven decision-making process for your client so that they will be now address this issue in a sustainable way. So doing this all in 12 weeks is what DSSG concept is about. As Dr. Richard mentioned, we started doing it in Florida in 2017. Now this concept has been caught up and we are quite happy to share that many other universities are now have a kind of a similar kind of program. Some of them call it as social good problems. Some of them call it as public good problem. So as we've been doing it for post-year 4 years, we definitely know the struggle and the importance of it, the level of the community impact we can make as a university. So we are also proud of all the other universities who are taking part in this kind of concept. With that, I would like Dr. Richard to share us what exactly we do in Florida Data Science Social Good.
So our focus for the Florida Data Science Social Good program is we want to help students develop their skills in terms of data science. And data science is an integrative learning field. It brings in multiple perspectives from different people to bring solutions. So we are very much interested in students developing those skills and capacities. But of course, the purpose for this data science is to do social good as well. And so what the students are learning as they work on these social good problems, they partner with nonprofit organizations, is they're learning how to be a social trustee of knowledge. And what we mean by that is they are taking their skills that they've learned through their education to help with social good issues and learning how they can contribute and also develop the expertise alongside the community partners in those different domains, in those different areas. So in that sense, we are training data scientists to have a social conscience, and that's the purpose of the internship. So data science is hard. The students have realized this. They've spent a large amount of time pulling different data sources together, trying to match these data sources up, and then also being challenged by how to not only do the analysis, but interpret the analysis. And so that's why we have people coming from multiple perspectives, but it can also be fun, things that we do together and engage in collaborative problem solving together. So it's a lot of work, and we definitely require a lot of our interns, but they've done a great job. And so we look forward to the presentations later in the session. So first, before we jump into the presentations, we'd like to hear from a few of our guests. First off is Rena Coughlin. She's the director of the nonprofit Center of Northeast Florida, the executive director of the Nonprofit Center for Northeast Florida. And she's actually, the Nonprofit Center is our community partners, the organization that we work with very closely to do this work. And so we'd like to invite her to say a few words.
Thanks so much, Dan. I really appreciate it. And it's so great to be back at another big reveal. I'm going to take just a second to share my perspective on the importance and the value of FL-DSSG project. The Nonprofit Center where I work was one of the original investors. It's actually the investor for the year one projects. And we believe so exceptionally strongly in the value that I think the best way to explain it is through a story. And that's about Yoga for Change. Yoga for Change was not an ideal candidate for FL-DSSG. Their data was mostly self-reported and organized on handwritten index cards, but Karthik and Dan took a chance on them, and the interns, Sherpas, and other professors really did a fantastic job helping them sort of professionalize and change their data collection, and took the raw data they had and converted it into an incredibly compelling and valid argument for investment in this small, scrappy organization. The ED for the executive director for Yoga for Change then took this terrific proof of value impact work to new funders who immediately invested $50,000. So Yoga for Change could then put into place and practice research, data collection, and staff training to take their organization to a new level. That in turn generated interest and investment from a statewide funder. And this small startup now is a statewide organization. That is the power and lesson of data science for social good. And the lesson here is that with the right support, nonprofits of any size and any mission can make a better data-informed case for their work. And I have to say now, in this time of the pandemic, when we are expecting large revenue shortfalls, donor fatigue, and pretty much disruption on every single level of our business world, being able to rely on data to prove your impact has never been more important. And we at the Nonprofit Center know that there are inequities in the power dynamics that keep some nonprofits from accessing revenue. So if more nonprofits tell their story, starting with data and impact, the playing field could be substantially leveled and more dollars would follow real success. FL-DSSG is helping nonprofits gain skills, prove their value, tell their story, and that's what I call progress. So congratulations to the amazing students who have invested so much this strange summer of virtual DSSG and made it a success. And of course, a huge thanks to UNF and Karthik and Dan and all of the advisory council. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Rena. Yes, next, I would like to hear from Chip Plostermeyer, who's the Dean of the College of Computing, Engineering, and Construction.
Thanks, Dan. It's really a pleasure to talk to everyone. I think this data science for social good is really one of the signature UNF programs that we do. It's just such it just embodies everything that UNF is about, all that we value, and it's just so wonderful. I really want to thank Kartik and Dan and all the people who work at it. I'm really proud of them. They put a lot of time and their own resources into this project. It's really a labor of love, and it's just such a joy to watch. Congratulations to all the students. And I think it's also worth sort of realizing that this is such an interdisciplinary program on so many different levels. I mean, we're bringing in different colleges from UNF. Data science by its nature is interdisciplinary. It's computing, it's mathematical, it's statistical. We're bringing in students from different disciplines, as we saw, faculty from different disciplines. It really just shows how STEM and data science and computing have permeated into everything. You know, it's really sort of the gospel that I like to preach, that our STEM and computing has really gotten its fingers into everything. I just find it such a wonderful representation of that. So I'm really proud of them. I'm really excited for continuing this program. I want to continue to be a partner with Dan and Kartik, trying to find a way to support this program. And just thank you for everything that you do, and congratulations again to everyone.
Yep. Thank you, Chip. Next we'll hear from Dean George Rainbolt from College of Arts and Sciences.
Thanks, appreciate that, Dan. I'd like to start by asking you all to cast your mind back to 1920. To 1920 here in Jacksonville. In 1920 here in Jacksonville, there were no bridges. Think about that for a second. There were no bridges. There was no bridge over the St. Johns River. There was no bridge to the beaches. There were no bridges. Think how difficult it would have been to get around. I just took my son this last weekend over to play baseball with some friends in Middleburg, and we had to cross 2 bridges. I didn't think anything of it. I just drove right across. Those bridges that have been built since 1920, the first one opened in 1921, have massively improved our community. And what I like about DSSG is it's building bridges. It's building bridges between academic units, between departments. It's building bridges between colleges, Chip's College and my own. It's building bridges between different academic institutions, as we see with the list of all the institutions represented, for students are represented in this group. But not only is it building bridges between academic units, it's also building bridges between academia and the community. All the nonprofit organizations in Raina's group, I don't know how many there are, Raina, but there are a lot, right? So all those organizations, we're building bridges to all those organizations. And if you look at the Sherpas, you see that we're also building bridges to industry. And just as those bridges built since 1921 have made our community better, the bridges that DSSG is building makes our community better. And I think that's why I'm so excited about DSSG.
Thank you very much, Dean Rainbolt. So a message, there are 300 nonprofits that are part of the Nonprofit Center. Thanks, Rena. Yeah.
Thanks, Dan. Next, we would like to move to the next set of guest speakers. So resources, as I mentioned, resources, having access to resources is one of the key things for us to run the program. One of the key resources we need is the funding. So this year, our program is essentially sponsored by University of North Florida Foundation through the faculty grant initiatives, then FIS Computing Distinguished Professorship Award, and Jacksonville Jaguar Foundation. So these are the main 3 agencies that are funding our program. But we also received contributions from University of North Florida Center for Community-Based Learning as well. So we thank for these agencies supporting us and funding our 2020 program. So we would like to hear from one of the funders, Susan from University of North Florida Foundation Board, to share reflection and thoughts. Susan?
Thank you. I am delighted to be here today, and I bring you greetings from the board members of the UNF Foundation. All of us are thrilled to be one of the funders of this extraordinary project. Our job as board members is to increase resources for the university so that it can continue to offer transformative experiences for students and make a positive impact in the community. Exemplary programs like Florida Data Science for Social Good really get our attention. Every year we set aside dollars so that we can fund some outstanding faculty initiatives. And then the grants committee spends months in review and recommends several for 2-year awards. The competition is stiff. We typically get 24 or more excellent proposals, and each one must shine at every stage of the process. And that process culminates in a full proposal and an in-person presentation. You will not be surprised to learn that Dan and Karthik crushed it. We have a list of criteria, not all of which every proposal needs to meet, but their project touched every base. As you know, it offers students real-world experience that expands their knowledge beyond the classroom and enhances their job prospects and develops their sense of social responsibility. It exemplifies, as Dean Rainbolt said, it exemplifies collaboration across disciplines and colleges and with external partners. And its impact on the community is real and meaningful. So congratulations, Dan and Karthik, and the students and everyone who's involved. I look forward to hearing about your summer's work. For us at the foundation, this grant is a home run. So thank you for making us proud.
Thank you, Susan. Next, I would like to call on Ari from Jacksonville Jaguars to share his thoughts.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. This is really exciting to be reflecting as a funder this year. We've been involved now for 4 years, but this is the first year that we've made a contribution to the program, and it's really meaningful because, you know, for the Jaguars to exist, it's all about the community, and we really want to support the community in any way that we can. And nonprofits are such a big part of that. And knowing what data has done for our organization and how it's affected it, you know, making that resource available to nonprofits that don't always have those options available to them is such an important thing to us. So being able to see, you know, the work that the students are able to do each year and what it does for the nonprofits that are part of this program is incredible. And the return, you know, it pays dividends in terms of, you know, helping the nonprofits understand what they can do with their data, and then in turn, you know, show that data to potential funders and make it so they can gain more resources. So it's really great to be part of this program, and congratulations to everybody who's participated.
Thank you, Ari. Thank you, Susan, and thank you, Ari, for supporting our program. And definitely, that's one of the key for us to keep going with this program. So with that, now we are ready to segue to the main portion of this event, which is the project finding. Soon, you guys going to hear from all of our 7 interns on the 3 projects that they've been working on for the past summer, in this last 3 months. But before we ask them to present, I do want to remind you, at any point in time, you can post your questions. As we do things virtually, we are using an audience engagement tool called Slido. So in order to post your question, you have to go to your browser, go to www.sli.do, enter that in your address bar, then enter. Most likely, the Slido site may ask you to accept their privacy setting. You can go ahead and accept it. Then it will give you a text box for you to enter the event code. You can enter FL-DSSG, all in one word. And then after you enter that code, you may get a screen, something looks like what the left-hand side picture looks like, and you can post your questions. We will be continuing to monitor the question as the students are presenting. After the students present and the clients reflect, we will have a Q&A section. At that point is when we will be answering your question. And as a continuing running thing at the bottom, middle bottom, you guys will see the instruction to post a question always up there. With that, I would like to invite Alison and Chandrika to take over.
Thank you, Dr. Karthik. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. This summer, Alison, Raj, and myself, we worked on the Center for Children's Right project. In the next 10 minutes or so, let's understand the wicked problem CCR is working on and how we all can help. Next slide, please. We all face many different challenges at an early age, but for most of us, the school to graduation journey is a pretty straight line. This isn't true for many kids for whom the journey is either delayed or cut short because of barriers like suspensions, failed grades, expulsions, and even arrests. So data related to juvenile arrests suggests that there is a disproportionate tendency of minors and young adults from disadvantaged backgrounds to become incarcerated more often. This whole thing where the children are funneled out of the schools into the juvenile and the criminal justice system is called the school to prison pipeline. Fortunately, there are a few organizations that are working towards breaking this pipeline and getting these kids back to school. CCR is one of them. And in the next slide, we will see how reference to law enforcement can disproportionately affect minorities. So both United States and the Duval County data reveal that the student population of the African American is lesser than that of the white students, but the Black students are more often referred to the law enforcement. For the whole of the US, the difference is around 16%, and for the Duval County, it's around 22%. In the next two slides, let's try to understand why it is important to address the problem of STPP. So few alarming statistics show that the chances of recidivism for youths that have been detained are way higher than for the kids that went through alternative programs. We can also see that the rate of violent crimes is way higher for kids that have been incarcerated. Next slide, please. So the school to prison pipeline has a profound negative impact on the young people's mind, their physical well-being, their mental well-being, their current education, their future employment prospects. Since it disproportionately affects the young adults from disadvantaged backgrounds, it has the potential to lead to a vicious cycle that is difficult to break, which in turn impacts the society socially and economically. First, let's reflect on the social impact. So nobody is born an offender, but their background can make them more likely to be one. So school to prison pipeline in many cases represent this continuity of a cycle which can stay in some families for generations. There is also a cost associated with this problem. So in US, on an average, it costs around $588 per day to keep the juveniles in a secure confinement. Alison.
Thank you, Chandrika. Now that we know more about the wicked problem and its context, let's talk about CCR and how they're facing the issues. We would say that CCR is an organization that provides free legal representation to kids that are being referred directly from the juvenile justice system. But in fact, they do way more than that. As the problem is complex and involves lots of different dimensions, CCR team works with a more holistic approach. So in addition to the advocacy, the free advocacy, they also provide other services and resources to the kids that in which are in need. So in the next slide, we will see a list of some examples of services and resources that CCR provide to the kids. So we can see that they provide educational advocacy, especially advocacy for kids that has disability, especially helping them to break the barriers to access special programs such as ESE, EIP, and other mental health services as well. And also helping kids and families to access public benefits, health programs, helping them with transportation, family services, and even housing and utilities. Next slide, please. CCR is a young organization. They are only 2 years old, but they are doing really great in terms of data collection. They have been collecting data from different stages of their relationship with the kids and the families. So they have a relationship from the moment that the kids are referred to them until the case closure. And they shared 6 different data sets with us that has data on more than 160 kids. This is not a big number in terms of observation, but those data sets were really rich in terms of features. We worked with more than 200 different features, and in which we had data containing information about kids' education, behavior, services that they need, resources that they need, and services that CCR provided to them. And in addition to this internal data, we also work with external data sources, such as the civil rights data collection and other academic papers and reports. So in the next slide, we'll see some approaches that we used to extract insights from this data. So we use from simple descriptive statistics until regression models, clustering, NLP, and quantitative analysis to analyze these data sets. And this last approach, especially we had to use because we had access to a very rich data piece of information that about the kids' history that was in text format. So we had to add some human intelligence to the machine intelligence to extract meaningful information from this data. And in the next slide, we will see some examples of the insights that we learned from the data and from this analysis that we did. The first one is that in CCR business, timing is crucial. And before we dig into the data, I will explain a little bit of the process. So CCR starts to work with a referral. And after this referral, they get in touch with the family or the caretakers, and they introduce themselves and try to convince them to start a project to help the kids. But in some cases, they're not able to get in touch with the family or the caretaker. And in other cases, even though they are able to contact them, the family is not interested in initiating a project, a relationship. So what we did was match the data we had, in which we had all the kids that were referred to CCR, and all the data regarding the kids that were accepted to CCR, and we calculated a success rate. And what we learned was, for the kids that are enrolled in school, the success rate is around 50%. And for kids that are not enrolled in school, even because they dropped or they got expelled from school, this success rate drops to 18%. So it seems like the sooner the CCR gets involved with the kids and the family, higher the chances that they engage with themselves. In the next slide, we will see some information regarding the demographics of these kids and families. So we can see, for instance, that the majority of the kids are coming from neighborhoods in which the household income is way below the average of Duval County. So almost 60% of the kids are coming from households in which the income is between $24,000 and $47,000 per year. Also, we can see that the majority of the kids are coming from schools in which the grades are below C. And also we can notice that significant portion of the kids are also coming from, they are not enrolled in any schools, or they're being homeschooled. Like 15% of those kids are not enrolled in any schools or are being homeschooled as well. In the next slide, we will see some examples of analysis that we did regarding the school's resources. And here we have plotted only schools that have reported some referrals to law enforcement. In the y-axis, we have the referrals to law enforcement per 1,000 students. And in the x-axis, we have the proportion of teachers in their first years of teaching. So we can see that it seems to have a relationship between the schools that have reported more kids to law enforcement and the fact and the proportion of kids, the portion of teachers that are unexperienced. And we also see that this This pattern repeated for other variables that we also analyze, such as the number of non-certified teachers, the absenteeism of teachers, and even the growth of the number of teachers over time. So it seems like that sometimes the kids with the most needs are being matched with the schools with the least resources. And now we can see here, if we go further and highlight in red, each dot here in this graph is a school. So if we highlight in red the schools that referred at least one kid to CCR, we can see that CCR is reaching the schools that has the highest engagement with the law enforcement. So it is interesting to see how good they're doing in terms of reach in only 2 years of work. So these were some examples that of insights that we got from the quantitative analysis. And now Chandrika will show us some insights that we got also from the qualitative analysis, especially regarding information regarding the kids themselves.
Thank you, Alison. So once we're done with the quantitative analysis, we moved on to the qualitative analysis. So since CCR had lots of data in the text format, this helped us to understand the clients better. And here are some important statistics which we could find. 65% of the kids referred to CCR suffered from anxiety, depression, ADHD, bipolar disorder, PTSD, among many other mental health concerns. At least 45% of these kids were either undergoing psychological evaluation or counseling, or they seemed to need one. In terms of education, 60% of the kids failed at least one grade, and 44% of them were frequently suspended. So irony is, given their mental health concerns, learning issues, and their grades, IEP or 5-4 was still a concern for 59% of these kids. So either the kid needed an IEP and didn't have one, or the parents were not involved in the IEP plan, or they had an IEP or 5-4 but were not making academic progress. Concerning these youth's family background, 65% of them came from complex family dynamics. And when we say complex family dynamics, it would mean the situation in the kid's family is not same as what we would see in any normal household. It might involve severe domestic violence, foster care, adoption, parental issues, killings in the family, and other trauma. More than 30% of such kids worried about not having enough food or even needed help with rent. And around 26% of these kids were dealing with substance or drug abuse. Now, CCR pays special attention to barriers specific to each kid and tries to provide holistic solutions. Next slide, please. So every kid CCR has worked with is a success story in itself. CCR is already off to an excellent start. Congratulations to the team on that. But we have few recommendations based on our analysis to CCR to enhance their journey. So first would be the improvement to the data collection strategy. So while doing qualitative analysis, we figured out an encoding system using which the text data which CCR was collecting can be segregated into categories with a simple yes/no kind of answers. This will help CCR when they will have lots of data to analyze in the future. This, followed by an exit survey of the clients post-case closure, will be an excellent way to quantify their success. Few questions like how CCR changed their mental and physical health, their family relations, their grades can be asked. We understand that CCR has good relationship with all the schools they have been working with, but putting more effort into schools where they get most referrals from will help them in several ways. They could work with those schools and other organizations to come up with some preventive measures so that the kids don't land up in the juvenile justice system in the first place. The next three recommendations are specifically for the complex cases CCR works with. So from the qualitative analysis we did, we could see referrals coming from complex family dynamics more often didn't register with CCR after the first meeting. Since the current team's hands are full, a dedicated staff attorney who could pursue such cases will be of immense help. Similarly, a resilience navigator, as Betsy quoted, who is a part social worker, part community builder, will be equally important to help such kids with resources. And finally, direct referrals from the court system will help them navigate through such cases quickly and efficiently. Thank you. Alison?
At last, we would like to share a beautiful piece of information we found in CCR's datasets. And they collect data regarding kids' talents, what the kids reported to be their talents and their interests. And we plotted a few examples here. And as the kids can report more than one talent, these numbers can sum up to way more than 100%. And the thing is, when we dig into the data, when we do all the analysis, we tend to treat them as the numbers, and we forget that they are kids, right? And when we see this kind of statistics, it kind of reconnects us with the fact that they are kids. They have hope, they have dreams, they have talents. And what CCR is doing is not only keeping those kids in school until they graduate, they're also helping those kids to explore their actual talents, to build other talents, and to make a good impact in society in the future. So this is the final insight we would like to share with you. We would like to thank Betsy and CCR team. We would also like to thank Professor Umapati and Professor Richard and all the mentors for sharing their time and their knowledge with us. And now we will switch gears from youths and kids to adults and the challenges that they face with their education. So I would like to invite Swat and Raj to present the Literacy Alliance project. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison and Chandrika. Let's move from CCR to Literacy Alliance of Northeast Florida project. To provide some context on adult literacy, on our next slide, we want to introduce William. William is 44 years old and lives with his wife and 2 kids. His job does not pay well. His income put him below the poverty line and has struggled with affording housing, food, and other necessities. William is sure the biggest obstacle in his life is illiteracy. He is unable to read at the level of a 5th grader, and he struggles with math because he dropped out of school due to socioeconomic situations. Because of this, he is unable to pick up a job that pays well, and he's scared that his children will have the same fate since their parents cannot help them at school. This sounds like a terrible situation, and unfortunately, it is not a unique one. Next slide, please. 1 in 5 Americans are considered illiterate, and children of parents with low literacy skills have a 72% chance of lacking literacy skills. 43% of literacy adults live in poverty, and it is not a just individual problem, it's a national problem. Our nation spends about $4 trillion on healthcare every year, and 6% of that is linked to low adult literacy, which comes out to $130 billion. Adult education is in critical need for services. A decline in federal and state funding in the past 10 years has resulted in programs serving only a fraction of the adults in need. At the present levels of public funding, less than 10% of adults in need are receiving services. Next slide, please. This problem exists in Jacksonville too. 1 in 5 adults in Jacksonville also lack basic literacy skills, which adds up to 150,000 adults who struggle with basic reading and writing. To address this challenge, the Literacy Alliance of Northeast Florida provides local literacy instruction through small group.
Swat?
Hey, I think Swat's video and audio might have cut out. I think I'm just going to continue for him.
Swat, could you repeat from? Go ahead, Swat.
I'm sorry, my internet is unstable. I think it gives error. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay. For the Jacksonville, this problem exists in Jacksonville too. 1 in 5 adults in Jacksonville also lack basic literacy skills, which adds up to 150,000 adults who struggle with basic reading and writing. To address this challenge, the Literacy Alliance of Northeast Florida provides local literacy instruction through small group classes, individual tutoring, and online instruction to over 500 adults every year. And next slide, please. The Literacy Alliance is a group of individuals, about 20 of them, in the Northeast Florida area. They help adult learners like Will achieve their goals. For some learners, they want to improve their literacy scores, which are measured through instruments like the test of adult basic education or the TABE. Others want to be able to help their kids with school, and others want to use math for basic economic activities like using an ATM or paying a check.
We lost him again.
The process of achieving these goals, they are invited to take an initial TABE exam, and then they proceed by taking courses and exams until they feel that their goals are met. However, this process has some obstacles, and it is a big issue for all adult learning centers. Nationally, across all centers, 25 to 50% of students are in danger of leaving a program within 5 weeks. The Literacy Alliance suffers from this problem too. We found that students were leaving different parts of the process. 58% of students leaving right after the first introductory sessions without recording hours or intake exam. A percentage of those remaining leave the program after taking the initial intake exam, and a small percentage leave after taking 2 exams. Even though this still translates to the Literacy Alliance servicing thousands of students, we want to help them understand and reduce those attrition rates. Next slide, please. The Literacy Alliance currently collects data on their students to keep records on assessments and hours attended, and it was our goal as a data scientist to analyze the data given and to make recommendations on what they could change, either with their data collection or with data process. Data included more than 6,000 adults, more than 2,000 of which have recorded hours. About 12,000 tests were administered to assess students' literacy skills. The Literacy Alliance team also captures considerable data on the background of adult learners, personal goals they have, and notes regarding their involvement. Each student has a wide range of personal goals, which are tracked that include everything from enrolling in a GED program, passing an exam for work, or writing a resume, or getting a driver license, and reading to children or grandchildren. Attendance is tracked in the form of class or tutoring sessions attended and the number of hours completed. This is an important factor because national research indicates it takes between 50 and 100 hours of instruction to see measurable educational gains.
With the large amount of data given, we want to identify ways to reduce attrition at the Literacy Alliance. And the first step in doing that was identifying the traits of the adult learners they served. After all, not everyone that comes to the Alliance has the same story as William, and if we want to identify why students are leaving early, we can't generalize their stories. Next slide, please. To do this analysis, we use a machine learning concept called clustering. We fed in a bunch of demographic data about our learners and tried to identify what natural clicks came out. In the end, we saw that there were 3 main groups the Alliance served. The first were students like William, who are tagged as having a low income according to the Literacy Alliance's intake process. These learners live below the poverty line, typically around 40 years old, and live in downtown and Northside. Most of them are unemployed. These students make up the majority of the Alliance's clients, and they also have the lowest rates of overall attrition. So we're going to call them our hopefuls, because we're rooting for them. The second group were students who are not tagged as having a low income. Just to clarify, these aren't necessarily students with a higher level of income. They have an income that's above the poverty line, but they're still unable to afford some of their necessities. They're still income constrained. These students were most at risk for leaving before the initial exam, and were also strongly at risk for leaving after that exam. This group was also the oldest, staying around the 50-year-old mark. So we're going to call them our working learners, because we're also rooting for them. And the final group that we have were students tagged as incarcerated. Incarcerated students would meet the Literacy Alliance at various correctional facilities around the greater Jacksonville area. This group of students was the youngest, typically around 30 years old. They also had the best scores in their initial test, along with the highest probability of taking an initial exam. So we're going to call them our young achievers, because of course, we're rooting for them. These weren't all the demographics we looked at, but they are the main ones we split by. All of the groups were about 50% female and 50% male, and ethnicity breakdowns were similar across the groups. So now that we have a good basis for who the adult learners are at the Literacy Alliance, I want to connect it back to the main task at hand, identifying why these different groups were vulnerable to leaving the Literacy Alliance early. So on the next slide, we can see that we had data from multiple databases, corresponding to demographics, scores, goals, etc. With all this data, we need to figure out which aspects were the most influential, which features were the most important in determining if a student was at risk for leaving. We use a machine learning model called a decision tree to examine some inputs, like age of learner, hours the learner spent at the center, or how often they take some tests, and then an output, like an increase in scores for learners or if they met their goals or not. We then ask the decision tree, can you figure out a way to get from point A to point B, from inputs to outputs? And it tries to figure it out. All right, so if the adult learner is around the age of, let's say, 30, and they come to the center for 20 hours, they're probably going to get better scores. And while it's making this tree, it makes a list of the input variables it thinks are important, decision points, and it ranks them. These decision points give us an idea of what to examine. To make these decision trees more specific, we made separate ones for each group, so we can emphasize how different factors affect different people. And to make it robust, we ran these decision trees hundreds of times each. After all of this, we were able to better determine what variables we should compare for analysis. And compare we did. We found a lot of interesting things. Some of them were things that we needed our clients' help to decipher, as we can see on the next slide. For example, our Young Achievers group, which is composed of the incarcerated individuals, had their graduation status be far more affected by hours achieved in the first 90 days than all the other groups. At first, we weren't 100% sure how to interpret that, and then our contact at the Literacy Alliance told us that incarcerated individuals were usually shuffled between different facilities, which keyed us in on the fact that those who achieved more hours quickly were less in danger of not graduating. On the next slide, you can see one of the biggest insights that we found in the data. That was examining goals. The Literacy Alliance recorded more than 1,700 participant goals with 71 unique options, and they also recorded if those goals were complete or not. We analyzed these 71 goals and decided to narrow them down to two main categories, labeling them as being either math or reading goals. We found that setting goals was one of the strongest indicators for how many hours students had in the program. The probability of a student spending more than 5 hours with the Literacy Alliance rose dramatically if they specified goals. This probability increased for specific groups with specific subjects. As you can see, the Young Achievers group saw a dramatic shift from spending 3 hours to 40 hours for those students who specified reading goals. Now, you can see that the hopefuls, who were low income and not incarcerated, saw their time increase from about 3 hours to 60 hours if they specified math goals. So now that we had all these insights, we want to transform them into action items, takeaways that the Alliance could use to inform their next steps. Next slide, please. First, we thought building a profile and questionnaire that defines at-risk students was beneficial. By providing the Alliance statistics about what influences a student to leave earlier, they can make more informed decisions. For example, our hopeful William. At intake, the Alliance can see that having a job but being marked as low income makes William more likely to leave early, and they can give extra attention to him. For goals, we want to give the Alliance something more substantial. We did some research and found 2 papers that proved to be interesting. The first one, What Works, tried to identify how adult learners were able to stay in their programs for longer. They found that locus of control, or how in control individuals felt about their situation, was correlated with how long they stayed in their respective program. The researchers made a set of questions that could potentially help the Literacy Alliance staff identify which students may not have that strong sense of control. The second paper, Predicting Dropout, looked into goal setting and tried to identify how different types of goals among students affected their dropout values. Basically, having a goal was significant for reducing dropout, but having unrealistic goals was significant for increasing dropout. So with those papers in mind, let's go back to that process we were talking about. On the next slide, please. Excuse me. So based on our research and our findings on the Alliance's students, we believe that by having conversations with adult learners at the beginning of the program and making sure that everyone is setting both math-oriented goals and reading-oriented goals, we can help set them up for success. And following up on how those goals are proceeding and how students feel about those goals can improve the average amount of hours students are taking in the program and make sure less students are facing those obstacles we talked about earlier.
Next slide, please. We are excited to see how the Literacy Alliance can implement these takeaways and ideas, and we are excited to see how their adult learners are impacted. For learners like William, hopefully having a better sense of the goals he has and the control he has on those goals can help him improve his mathematics and literacy scores. That way, William is able to apply for other jobs and help his children in school. The Literacy Alliance helps thousands of students, some with situations like William and some with completely different ones. And our hope is that we can help them improve their impact on these students. Thank you so much, Marcus, Jessica, and Drs. Patrick and Richard for the collaboration. Raj and I presented the
I think what's going to say is that the next presentation is going to be from Dana, Vinay, and Kayla, and they're going to talk about young learners in the Episcopal Children's Services.
Thank you, Swat. Thank you, Raj. Hello, everyone. Let's take a moment to rewind back to our childhoods. Do you remember the name of your first teacher? Do you remember how it felt playing on the playground? Some children may have had different experiences than you. Some children are born into a risky environment where healthy development is not guaranteed. Many children in our communities could use assistance with growing and learning on their way to a healthy future. Next slide. Why do you think this child is sitting all alone on the playground? It's possible they are having trouble making friends, or they've gotten in trouble for being disobedient, or maybe they just lack the energy to play. These are just speculations, but they're all possible situations for children starting school at a disadvantage. Next slide. The National Early Head Start program is designed to address these critical early childhood disparities that can result in lifelong consequences. One program locally that addresses these childhood disparities is Episcopal Children's Services. Their Early Head Start initiative includes working alongside pregnant women and children under the age of 3 whose environment puts the child's healthy development at risk. They do this with center-based and home-based services with the children's health and the parents' needs in mind. Next slide. ECS came to us with a wicked problem. Children within our local community have a variety of early developmental needs, where ECS has the ability to work alongside these children to give them a chance for healthy development. But with the 174 neighborhoods to canvass, they needed help managing large amounts of data about these children and families, and in narrowing down locations of children and their families that could benefit from their services. Next slide. Together, we came up with a solution to create a geographical information system. We started right away with data collection, looking for publicly available data that matched the variables identified by the ECS screening tool, as well as literature written by the experts. We ended up collecting 18 publicly available data sets with hundreds and hundreds of variables. From there, we cleaned the data by narrowing down the data sets to just 18 variables. We then normalized the values so that we were comparing apples to apples instead of apples to oranges and any other fruit that was in the basket. Once normalized, we ran some analyses, which I will discuss in a few more slides, and we merged the data into a Tableau to build a dashboard, which you will also get to see later in the presentation. Next slide. Here are the 18 data sets we collected from census.gov, floridahealth.com, and usda.gov. Some variables are doubled up on the slide to save space. We have income-based variables. We made sure to include low income because they do not get as many benefits offered to them as do people in poverty, but they still struggle to survive on what little money they have. So it was very important to keep them included. We have home-based variables, including food desert, which is low-income families that live 0.5 miles from a large grocery store in an urban area or 10 miles from a large grocery store in a rural area. For minority-based variables, we included race for demographic analysis purposes only. And finally, family-based, like population 0 to 5, which is a combination of pregnant women and children 5 years and under. It includes 4 and 5-year-olds because that is the census.gov data's way of collecting. And all we can do is work with the data that we have access to. Next slide. Next, we chose to run factor analyses. Since we were still working with a lot of variables and wanted to evaluate the relative importance of those variables. Knowing that neighborhoods are different from each other, we used factor analysis to tell us in what ways they are different and on what dimension. With differences in mind, we ran an orthogonal rotation or independent rotation. However, seeing some similarities in our results, we ran the analysis again, but with an oblique rotation or a relational rotation. From that analysis, we identified two primary dimensions or factors. We then labeled the factors based on the variables that were associated with that factor. As you can see, there are three variables included in both factors: low birth weight, education level, and uninsured. But depending on the factor, they have different relative weights associated to them. We then rescaled the weighted average of the variables based on the importance weights from the factor analysis. Some variables, like in the foreign-born and disadvantaged index, contributed 100% to the factor. Whereas in the income-constrained factor, relative weights for low birth weight and education level were relatively half compared to the other variables, and uninsured was weighted even lower. We also created an index from the ECS's screening tool that included all the weights allocated by the professionals for the 18 variables. Next slide. I now hand it over to Vinay and Kayla so that they can show you the indices and variables we created on the Geographic Information Systems dashboard.
Hello, everyone. Now that we have identified the factors, let's start by operationalizing the information. With ECS screening process, now I would like to identify the neighborhoods that would most benefit from these early childhood services. Well, seeing the information associated with each neighborhood, then identifying the individual will be a very difficult task. To address this, we collaborated with ECS and built this dashboard. Now we will see how the ECS professionals can use this system to efficiently find the most in-need children in the Duval County. The select indicator filter enables to select any of the 18 indicators or the 3 indices present at the bottom. As discussed earlier by Dana in factor analysis, now we will use the ECS screening index to find the most risk children in the Duval County. As we select this, we can see the shading of the map changes. Here the shading represents where the most risk families or the neighborhoods are present. With dark color neighborhoods such as 122 present between the Normandy and the Blanding Boulevard on the west side of the Jacksonville, and neighborhood 144.01 present in the south side Arlington or Windy Hilly area, are the higher risk neighborhood with high ECS screening value, while the lighter blue neighborhood represents the lower risk ones. So this will help the ECS professionals to get a quick overview of the risky neighborhoods. Another feature we have provided is this slider. This slider enables to show numerous areas such as looking specifically at 78th percentile, thereby narrowing the search to few neighborhoods without overwhelming prospects. At the bottom left, we can see the top 8 neighborhoods. These top 8 are the neighborhoods that has most risk families for the selected indicator. This enables the ECS professionals to narrow down their search to few neighborhoods. So to better understand these top neighborhoods, the ECS professionals can use the key indicator comparison chart present at the bottom left. So this key indicator comparison chart compares the neighborhood based on the key indicators: education level, low birth weight, population between 0 to 5, poverty level, and unemployment that highly affects the children development. So now when we click and select these top census tract, the key indicator comparison will display the percentile values of ECS screening index. So here we can see that the neighborhood present between the Normandy and the Blanding Boulevard has relatively high ECS screening values for most of the key indicators, while the neighborhood located in the south side Arlington has relatively low percentile values for the education level and also for the population between 0 to 5. So to conclude, the neighborhood present between the Normandy and Blanding Boulevard is definitely a good area for the ECS to target. So in this similar way, the ECS can use the other indicators and the indices to find the most risk neighborhoods. So once they have identified this neighborhood, the next step is to find the nearest locations. So here labeled on the map, we have 9 geographic locations that symbolize the ECS and their affiliated centers. So now Kayla will demonstrate how the ECS professionals can use this feature to connect neighborhoods to the ECS resources efficiently.
Thank you, Vinay. Now that we've mapped out the county, let's get down to the neighborhoods. To start, we've also created a street view map that will show ECS the areas to canvass. Although we are not able to get down to the exact household, ECS can now get down to the areas and neighborhoods that most fit the selection criteria, thereby helping to find the kids that will most benefit from their programs faster. ECS employs direct action during recruitment, including canvassing, billboards, and word of mouth that would benefit from the street view. We'll start with the previously mentioned Tract 122. For any locals of this area, this is best recognized as between Blanding Boulevard and Normandy in West Duval. This is a highly residential area that has a high number of our features. And as we can see, there are many neighborhoods, condos, and apartments in this area that might be of great interest to our campusers. Here we might start our search with low-income housing at Biltmore. While some families may prefer the center, this is a good example to showcase that ECS is also able to offer home-based services. With this map, relative distances, and the inspiring number of homes these ECS teachers drive to, we are able to provide the most efficient use of time. So with this tool, canvassers are able to offer both the ECS affiliate Lane Avenue CDC Center, approximately 1 mile away, as well as home-based services to encourage early childhood education. Now that we are able to not only find possible children in need, but actively recruit in high-need areas, this will expedite the process of screening and streamline early education. All of these factors will greatly increase the rate of recruitment, providing proper care and services to children in Duval County. Continuing the thought of looking forward, I'll hand things back to Dana.
Thank you, Kayla. Thank you, Vinay. I am so proud to be part of an initiative that gives children opportunities for early education and healthy development. And now ECS professionals can use the dashboard and indices to help identify even more neighborhoods with children who could benefit from their services. I hope this shows that if we all work together, all children could grow up in a healthy environment, and that kid sitting on the bench alone is there by choice, not because of his situation. Thank you for joining us and interacting with our presentation about the hope for children and their success in school. I will now hand it back over to Dr. Umapathy to sew up this presentation.
Thank you, Dana. So if we were all meeting virtually, I'll be asking everyone to give a big hands for now. So all of those are watching us via Zoom and via YouTube, please give them all big hands. And quite obviously, we can see there is a bright future for all of them ahead of this. So we're going to segue from here to our next section of our talk, which is hearing bit from our clients. Our clients have access to not only the insights our intern shared today, but also many more insights from the past 12 weeks. So we would like to reflect on basically on 3 questions. What's the biggest reveal for them from their perspective from this project? Now, given those insights, what they feel is the biggest impact for their about this project for their organization. And now that they have access to a data-driven approach of doing things, what are the next steps for their organization? Right. So, given this insight, we're going to follow the same order of way we present the project. So we're going to first ask Betsy from CCR to share thoughts on those reflection questions. To make things easier, I'm going to put back those questions.
Thank you. It's hard to pin down just one big reveal because the students did such an amazing job of really digging into not just our data, but comparing that to the various different data sources. I think that the 2 things that stand out most to me and to our organization are, one, from a prevention and intervention perspective, the insights that the team brought to the resourcing issue in regards to first-year teachers and that mismatch of fit really that we're seeing with our really high need population of kids. It's something that we were aware of anecdotally, but the data has really made us think through that in a different way in how we may be able to make recommendations or provide a way to highlight better ways to find fit for resourcing specific schools related to the complex needs of the students who are in attendance there. And then second is more really about the kids and the families that we are serving. Initially, this project was really developed with a lens focused on that educational piece. And I think that we, just like the other 2 organizations that are participating in this, really have seen that any approach really has to be holistic. And the data really revealed that to us in a different way of just the basic needs and the basic barriers that kids and families need assistance with in order to overcome those barriers and in order to continue to move forward on these pathways out and away from the juvenile justice system. For us, the impact has been tremendous on us as an organization. We are small and new and still growing, which is very exciting for us because that means we can respond in very dynamic ways to what the data is telling us, which is letting us know that there are things within our model that we need to, or that we have an opportunity to rethink how we can best respond holistically to the needs of kids and families and advocate for them, as well as layer in these additional components of our team with resilience navigation. So our next steps are that we're going to be working on that. We're going to be working on implementing and furthering this idea of a legally informed family team meeting so that we are putting kids and families at the center of what we do from the very beginning and driving a holistic process that improves their connections at schools, improves their access to what they need in the community, and increases equity around what they are experiencing in their day-to-day.
Right. Thank you, Betsy. Next, we call on Marcus from Literacy Alliance to share his thoughts. Marcus?
Thank you, Professor, and thank you, Saat and Raj. It was really great to hear all of your reflections and your presentation and your data, and it was enormously helpful for us. So, I mean, I can share that what particularly stood out for us was the data regarding the goals, particularly its role in persistence and retention and ultimately the success of our students. We had been expanding that process over time, but what we didn't know was, really if it was making any difference. And so now that we've got this data, it's really kind of laying out a really clear picture for us about how important that goal setting process is, but it also helped us identify ways that we can take that goal setting process to then work on removing barriers for the students to be able to meet those goals and stay in the program. That's from an organizational standpoint. Personally, I'm really very pleased also that the insights that we got out of it will help us motivate our volunteer tutors and our instructors, because being able to kind of see how the process works and how the goal setting process is having an impact is going to be really inspiring to them. And the wicked problem, particularly that it addressed for us, was that we had always, or in particularly the most recent past, been pretty good about developing our outcome measures in terms of looking at just basic scoring. So increases in scores, increases in education levels. But what we were really looking for was the drivers of those successes. So what was it behind those increases in scores that was really making that happen and would give us something to be able to latch on to really ensure that that continues and even strengthens even more. So with this research, we've obviously got a really great tool now for developing, monitoring, facilitating, particularly the goal attainment. And that will be what helps our adult learners get to where they eventually need to be. And so next step for us, several next steps for us, actually, I'm really happy to share some exciting news that we've just kind of put in place as a result of all of this. Another partnership with UNF. Thank you for UNF. We are partnering with the Social Work College out there, and we have an intern starting this fall that's going to particularly focus on social work and case management. And so be able to help us build that capacity for helping students break down those barriers to be able to stay in the program and meet their goals. Because a lot of our students, actually more than half of our students, are also female, we're actually also looking at developing that in a very gender responsive context, so that we can help those entire spectrum of individuals. And then obviously, with everybody knows, with everything going on with COVID, we have been in a situation where we're seeing increased need for the services, but also different kinds of needs ranging from digital literacy to workforce development. So what we're going to be able to do is put in all these goals in context. And so when we do that, we can provide that instruction to those students in a contextual basis, which really helps with their learning. And then finally, we're actually looking at, thank you to, particularly for, from Volunteer Florida, we have been given a planning grant to launch an AmeriCorps program for adult literacy. And so what this will enable us to do as we go through our planning process for this year to bring that on next year is put in place training and guidance for AmeriCorps members to focus in on those goals when they're working with adults in our community. So I can't thank you enough. It's an amazing opportunity that we've gotten to be able to do this. And again, Raj Suat and our team, Jessica Richter, who was involved with pulling the data and presenting it to you all. It was really amazing to see it all come together. So thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Next, we call on Temple from ECS to share her thoughts. Temple.
Thank you. Before I reflect, I just want to take a moment to thank Dana, Kayla, and Vinay. I think a big piece of what made this so successful is that they were so passionate about the work, and they really asked me a lot of questions about what the needs were in the community and how we serve the children. And, you know, I shared success stories with them so they could really understand. And we have just been overwhelmed with the tool that they provided us. Our significant discovery revolves around the fact that, you know, our problem is that we have limited resources. We only have the funding to serve 405 children in Duval County, and we're trying to find the most vulnerable families and make the biggest impact. And so our vision was to just have a basic heat map that would guide us to where to find those families and serve them. And this decision tool that has been created by the team allows us to do so much more. It will really enhance our recruitment plan. As Kayla showed, that street level, being able to give our family services folks that information so that they can go in and canvas and visit those communities will be an amazing tool for us. In addition to helping our recruitment, the way they designed the tool so that you can really understand the relationship between the key indicators is going to help us with our staffing. We're going to be able to see what our staffing needs for Head Start and Early Head Start. They ask us to be culturally sensitive, and a lot of our children are dual language learners. And so we need to hire bilingual staff. And so this will help us identify where we can recruit for our staffing as well as our families. And it will also help us take a look at what services we can offer our families, what their needs are, deeper than what just our index requires for our screening. So we're really excited about that. In terms of what the next steps for our organization are, in the last couple of meetings, all of our content area specialists that attend the meetings have just been dying to get their hands on this tool. And they've all given me feedback, and we're like, okay, we're just really ready to have it now, and we want access to it, and we want to start playing with it and seeing how we can address these needs. And so we're really excited to get our hands on this tool. In addition to getting our hands on this tool, the team has promised to give us instructions on how we can now take this data and, you know, not only have they set up this tool for us, but it's kind of like the teach a man to fish. Now they're going to teach us how to use and update this tool so that we can continue to utilize it for years to come. And in closing, I just want to thank Dr. Richard and Dr. Umapathy. They have made this really easy for our team, and we've just been amazed with the outcomes.
Thank you very much, Temple, for sharing that. So you guys may not believe it, coming up with project and submitting a project proposals does take courage. And in order to do that, they need to start collecting data and start thinking about it. So kudos to all three agencies and for them taking the lead in it and doing the hard work of having data with us, sharing with us, and providing a wonderful opportunity for us to teach our aspiring students how to be a data scientist too. So let's also give a big hands for all of our three organizations who have been taking part in here. They are truly the community leaders around us. So with that, now we are ready for Q&A section. Again, those who are watching this event through YouTube, and also those who are watching this, the presenters who are also on YouTube, on the Zoom, can also post questions to us. To make our process of managing this Q&A process more simple and straightforward, we are asking you to go to a browser, type in your browser www.sli.do, then enter the event code FL-DSSG, then you should be able to post questions to us. So with that, I'm going to ask Dr. Richard to manage the Q&A section.
Sure. So as you all are typing in your questions, thinking about some thoughts and ideas that you have, we do have one question that has been posted so far, and it's really about the experience of the interns. So I'm going to turn the microphone, as it were, back to the interns and say, so what was your experience like doing this data science internship? What were some surprises for you and some takeaways, and what sort of advice would you have for someone who's considering, in the future, a student considering doing this type of work?
I can say from my own personal view, this was my first time working with not-for-profit organizations directly. And I had done other contracting jobs before, but the true passion for their topic, you know, the excitement whenever you talk to them about their projects was so great. And you could feel it. Then you started to get really passionate about their projects if you weren't already, which, you know, right off the bat I was. But I think just that experience, getting to work with a different type of company was really exciting for me and helpful.
Great. Thanks, Dana. Yeah. How about some other interns?
To build off of Dana's point, I think one of the most incredible parts was learning to work with things that you haven't before. So one of the best parts for me was that everyone involved, they had a different skill to bring to the table. So it was a lot of different ideas for the same problem, which I think was one of the most incredible parts. so far in creative problem solving.
Thank you. All right. How about from some of the other projects?
I just want to tack on, like, this project is very multifaceted. You'll get a lot out of it, and depending on what you come in with trying to learn and your previous experiences. So I'd say no matter what your skill set is previously, if you come from a more, business background or a more, managerial background, or you come from a technical background, you're going to get something really interesting out of this, and you're going to learn from the other people in your team.
Right. Yeah, how about one more advice, a piece of advice, things that you wish you would have known when you started the program from our interns?
I would say that you should not expect to receive huge database as we are used to in Kaggle projects. So we receive real databases, like real in real projects. So we need to understand the differences, and we need to apply different techniques to the data. Maybe it's not going to be the most complex or fancy technique that will give you the best insight on the data. So you need to try lots of different things. We need to try the most simple approaches and the most complicated one, and see which one tells you a better story about the data. So that was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, and similar to Allison, that's what I realized. So when we hear of data science, and for me, it was always technical when it came to data science. So it was building models and deploying models. But then when I started working on a real data science project, I understood that it was more about working on the data, getting more data, cleaning the data, than actually working on models and then analyzing it.
Yeah, usually it's the 80% rule. Like 80% of your time is actually cleaning the data, and the rest is everything else. So,
Right.
and
But
for
as our courses teach, it is always more about the modeling, and then like optimizing the model and stuff. But then this was a big reveal for me that it's more about the data. Thank you.
And so I'd like to turn this question around a bit and hear from our community partners, right? And so what was the, if you're giving advice to other community agencies who might want to participate in this project in the future, what sort of things you wish you had known before you had gotten into the process, that you'd give advice, or any kind of helpful advice you'd give to other organizations, community service organizations that might want to get involved? What sort of advice would you give?
I think one thing that I took away is that you need to know what your wicked problem is, but maybe you don't need to visualize exactly what that solution needs to be, because I think I had something in my head that I thought a product I wanted, but as it turns out, that's not the project. That's not what I wanted. What the team delivered way exceeded my expectations. And so, I think that's part of the data analysis process. So often we all want to kind of force the data into seeing it in a certain way, and you have to be really open to how that's going to turn out.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too. Being open-minded and accepting that looking at data and really parsing it can be obviously eye-opening and challenging in a way where you start to pull back some areas that you really need to look at. And this is obviously kind of a summary of all the conversations that we've had, but what was additionally helpful for us is kind of really teasing out a lot of the data that was there and looking at it in a different way, and being able to take that and go, okay, that's an area that we probably need to look at. And so being open to that is definitely worthwhile, both going into it and getting through it on the other side.
I think just to kind of echo that, openness is really important. For us, we knew that we wanted to try to access, we were fingers crossed that we were going to get accepted. And so we were trying to find ways to gather data and trying to put processes into place, looking forward and thinking through what the team might want to see or might want to have access to. And so we gathered a lot of data, and the process really helped us to understand what might be helpful and what might be necessary and what might not be necessary. So now, in some ways, we are completely shifting really the data that we want to continue to capture. And one piece of that is the team's recommendation as to the qualitative piece, so that we're really capturing the voices and experiences of the kids and the young people and the families that we're serving.
Yeah, it's really great. So we have another question about, this is for the interns. Has this experience informed or changed your thoughts about career path and or maybe about what types of things you might be doing in the future for your career? I wonder if any of the interns would speak to that. Or maybe it confirmed something that you had thought.
Yeah, to build off of Dana's point previously, it definitely confirmed that I would like to work in something with a nonprofit sector, just because the passion is there and the impact is noticeable, I think, in the community.
And I guess to add on to that, just I think it confirmed more for me that I really like both the nonprofit community and also data science were both things I was interested in looking at before this, and this confirmed for me that that's a very viable and interesting career path.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy mentoring, and I've always wondered what it would be like for elementary school children if they had the opportunity to have a second advisor, because not all school advisors are equal. And I know that I had a tough time, getting into college because I didn't have a school advisor. They actually, they appointed a teacher as an advisor, and so she didn't really know what to tell us. And so I think that knowing that there are that many children out there that could probably still use that mentorship encourages me to go back into that and reach out to schools and see if I can give my time to some students if it would help.
Yeah, so any students now, it sounds like some of you are thinking about this nonprofit sector sort of being a viable option for you in terms of career path.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Any thoughts about that in terms of career and future from our other interns?
Yeah, I would like to add one thing. Being working with nonprofit organization, we can see the impact very soon. Like with the dashboard we have developed, we are really interested to know what is the impact it is going to make. So in the very less time, we are going to see the impact when we work with nonprofit organization. That's the thing. I was very interested to work with nonprofit organizations.
We had an interesting question coming in from one of our industry Sherpas, and that is now thinking back. This is for the interns, thinking back for where your headspace was, what you were thinking, what your mindset at the beginning of the project. So I want you to go back and introduce yourself to the person that you were before this program started. And I want you to tell that person something that they should have in mind as they look forward to the next 12 weeks. What would you tell them? It's a good question.
to learn Tableau.
I think because our project was so visual, just knowing that there were people at a disadvantage out there, but then to see, like, you're going to, in this project, see how many are just in your own county. That was crazy.
Mm-hmm. So other interns, what are you saying to yourself as yourself that you're starting?
I would say to myself not to be afraid of the term data science. I come from a business background, and this term kind of scared me a little bit, but I saw it as much more accessible. Doing data science is much more accessible than I thought before. So you don't need to be afraid. You just need to love working with data, be interested in the project, have passion about what you're doing, and just go.
All right. Yeah.
I don't want to call anybody out, other interns out, but I will if I have to. So Chandrika, what would you say to yourself?
Okay, so before starting on the DSSG project, I was trying to do my best understanding all of the modeling, which Python offers and stuff. And I never worked on a qualitative analysis before. So the initial 6 to 8 weeks, I think we tried almost every different way to cluster our clients and then do NLP and stuff. But the answer was a simple qualitative analysis, which gave us more insights. So that was a big learning for me that, like we should be open to different ways to dive into the data. So yeah, I think that was that would be the thing I would be telling myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what about Vinay and Suat?
I will be more focused on my steps. Yeah, sorry, it's again says the unstable internet. Sorry about that. So I will be more careful about the steps again. For example, if I start with the data cleaning, I just validate all this part and then do some analysis. Otherwise, sometimes we have to go back and then clean the other variables. So we did some parts twice or more than twice. So I will be more careful on following the steps actually.
Yeah, that was a constant. Just for those in the audience, that was a constant thing, a constant question that we have. It's like, all right, show me your data. Show me what data do you have, and is it clean data? Is it working? So these guys had to go back and forth and think through their steps again. Vinay, what about you? What would you tell yourself?
Vinay, you are in mute. On mute.
Most of our time I have worked for the ECS. I have given my most of the time for ECS. Now, if given, I would have worked I would have done more analysis on literacy alliance and would have brought some more to the table. But Swat and Raj has did a very great work. Yeah.
Great. Right, well, given that we are wrapping up in terms of our questions, I think I'll turn things back over to Dr. Amapate to talk about. Oh, no, excuse me. Yes, so now we'll hear from President Dr. David Szymanski, UNF President Dr. David Szymanski, for some closing remarks for our event.
Thanks, Dan. And that wasn't a career limiting moment for you whatsoever. So you're good. So I hope you enjoy working for a nonprofit, because that's us. So no, I want to really thank you and Karthik for all your leadership. This has really been phenomenal. And I'm a big fan of this whole initiative. And I really want to thank you for your vision and your constant leadership and support. As you listen to the students in particular, you see all the benefits that come out of here. It's a long list. Some of them are very tangible and very, front of mind right now, and others you'll just figure out as you go along and over time. The important part is you'll never forget this experience. You'll never forget the opportunity you had to work with people from different backgrounds, different perspectives, different skill sets. A lot of you talked about that. There's a social awareness that comes out of this, which you learn about social problems and what are some of these problems, what are some of the real problems. There's greater quantitative skills that you begin to develop through the immersion. You learn about qualitative data being great for generating hypotheses and explanations for quantitative data. And so you learn how the two of them actually paired together offer you a richness that you couldn't otherwise get. You learn about different techniques. So you get to learn about factor analysis, you get to talk about orthogonal oblique, and you get to talk about eigenvalues and things that, wow, that's really exciting, and it is. And you find out that most of these statistical techniques, all these statistical techniques are just really grounded in correlations, and it's a different approach. But you also realize that data science is really a little bit on the data art form, which is you're making a lot of decisions as you go along. You're looking for that tool that's going to be best for answering the question. You have to understand the question. You have to understand the toolbox. You have these quantitative skills that you bring to the table. Now, which one of them do you draw on? What technique, what approach, what assumptions are you making? What assumptions does the technique make, right? You spend a lot of time cleaning up databases. And so trying to get that in order, trying to make sure that that works. What are we doing with missing data? What is this looking like? How do we code these things, right? And so you learn a lot of skills that are practical skills that you're going to take with you forever and ever and ever. You're going to learn a lot of skills that are going to allow you to solve real problems. So the real cool part about what you're doing is the last part of this, which is the social good. You actually do take problems and skill sets and acumens and passions, and you create this greater good. You make a difference for others. As you listen to the sponsor companies and the clients, whatever the term is that you want to use, our partners in this, you really made a difference for them. You allow them to have tools, have insights that they otherwise wouldn't have, and they couldn't maybe afford any other way. And so you learn that you, through your skills, which maybe humbly you begin with, I don't really know a lot, I'm learning as I'm going, I'm just a student, are really skills that are in demand by lots of other people, because you can make a difference with this. You offered an insight that really wasn't there before. You offered a tool that'll live on beyond you, that allows people to do good. And then the outcome is really you made differences in people's lives that you don't even know about. Because of the better decision making and the science behind the decisions, you've impacted lives in ways that we don't know today, but can be tremendous tomorrow. So I want to, congratulate you on the perseverance. I want to congratulate you on the heart and the passion and the teamwork that it took to get here today. But you are really truly making a difference. You are transforming your own lives as you go immerse yourself in these experiences. So maybe what you should tell yourself is it's okay to jump in where there's a lot of uncertainty, because there's a lot of personal growth that occurs. And you're going to find this throughout your career. Really challenge yourself. There's boundaries. You say, well, I'm not really that comfortable there. You will be. You will if you grow and you allow yourself to grow. So it's okay to try new things. It's okay to try new sectors, new entities, work with different people from different areas, because that's how we solve real world problems, is these diverse teams. So I want to congratulate you on your perseverance. I want to congratulate your leadership in terms of persevering through different times too, in terms of how do we come together? How do we create a team? How do we address a problem remotely? So that's a whole new skill set. But you really should be proud of yourself, because you are difference makers and you continue to be difference makers. And so we're proud of you to have as part of our family, proud of you to help us here in Jacksonville in solving these problems. But it really is data science for social good, and the good part is the fun part. So congratulations. Thank you all. I know some of you are pursuing your academic paths right now. You're probably like us, and some of you are UNF students. We're 2 days in. Stay healthy, stay well, but continue to persevere and continue to aim high. So thank you very much. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Kartik. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Szymanski.
Thank you, President Szymanski.
All right, so we are now finally at the last set of slides. So now that we are at the end of the event, we would like to remind you about the summer 2021. If you are a nonprofit or public sector organization, we would like you to start thinking about your wicked problem, talk to your other staffs and partners around your problem and try to get their commitments and start identifying your sources, data sources. We will be opening up the submission proposal in middle of January in 2021. In meantime, anyone can reach out to Dan and myself, and we will be happy to answer any questions you may have. And same thing for any aspiring students who are watching this video, archived video in YouTube, you are also most welcome to reach out to us, and we will be opening intern application as well in mid-January 2021. So with that, we would like to thank everyone who taking part in this event and who has been supporting us all along in our process. So for President joining us in this event and supporting us to continue doing this program despite the crisis and pandemic that is going on around us, and keeping UNF still a community resource is a very important step to make. And we thank our president for supporting us, our provosts, our deans, and our department chairs, and all other faculties being continued to engage in such a difficult situation. And we also, most importantly, want to now thank Deborah for accommodating sign language students so that we have more reach of our event. Thank you, Deborah, for reaching out to us. So with that, thank you, everyone, and hope to see you guys all back in summer 2021. Dan,
thank you, everyone. Hope to see you soon. Stay safe.
Thank you.